What's going on, and welcome to Pro Football Today post-game show. My name is Tom Vecchio. Monday Night Football is over. Bengals come away with the win, 27-20. Crazy end to the game, crazy missed calls. We have so much to get through. Couple quick things. Bengals money line comes through the win. Bengals do cover, 1-7. Surprise, surprise for the Bengals. We also see the under hit. It was trending pretty nicely. The over that was, if you were on that, like I said, I wasn't. The over was trending pretty nicely in the first half. Things really slowed down in that second quarter. And credit to the defenses on both sides. They really did pick up their game, especially in that third quarter. A little bit of scoring at the end. 47 total points. Bengals, again, cover, whether it was 4.5, 5.5, doesn't really matter, wherever the line moved throughout the week. They cover, they come away with the win. Technically their playoff hopes are still alive. High-level stuff when it comes to the players. Joe Burrow flies over all his props. 369 from him in the air. 44 passing attempts, which I specifically spoke about him going over 36.5. He has 3 touchdowns. Jamar Chase did everything. 177 yards and 14 receptions from Jamar Chase and 2 touchdowns, which we didn't. Dave mentioned on the pregame show. There's a lot to get to. Obviously, some good stuff from the Cowboys side of things, especially Rico Dowdle. I was wrong about him tonight. We can get to that. We did get 2 passing touchdowns out of Cooper Rush, a passing touchdown to CeeDee Lamb. So there are some things to work with when it comes to the Cowboys still moving forward. While their season may be over, I think Rico Dowdle will be a bright spot for them. For the Bengals, obviously the passing attack is where we have to look. A whole lot to break down, not only for this game, but we'll start to look at Thursday Night Football and maybe some of the Sunday games for the rest of the Pro Football Today post-game show. We're coming up against a break right now. Stay tuned with myself, Tom Vecchio. We'll go through the rest of this game, look at Thursday night, look at Sunday Night Football. What a game from the Bengals. 27-20 final. They cover, they win, and the under hits. Stay tuned. The other side of this break.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What?
How do you do this once?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
We got the NBA Cup going on. Not that anybody really cares per se about the NBA Cup. Now, I got to be honest with you. I actually did try to look of what does it mean for the NBA Cup? Like who's playing for what here? And I lost interest and I gave up after about 30 seconds. And I was like, you know what? Whatever, dude. There's NBA games.
Sports Rage tonight, only on SportsGrid.
He also said that the Bears head coaching opening would be the most coveted job after the season.
They'll let that guy stay. I heard today that they were very worried about screwing up Caleb Williams, so that he likes this guy Brown so much that they may let him stay as the head coach. What a disaster that'll turn into.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to Pro Football Today post-game show. My name is Tom Vecchio, recapping Monday Night Football. Bengals coming away with the win at 27-20. Bengals cover. The under hits. Surprisingly, all these teams, or not all these teams, both of these teams driving to the red zone multiple times and not coming away with touchdowns is terrible to see. But we did cash in on some good props. Vinny, if we have the graphic for that long shot bet that I liked coming into this game, it was Jamar Chase and T. Higgins to combine for 200 receiving yards. And we ended with exactly 200 receiving yards. Obviously, Jamar Chase with the lion's share of that work. 177 yards from Jamar Chase and 23 from T. Higgins. So 200 on the dot cashes this at plus 270. It did fall to about plus 240 as we got closer to game time. But let's use that time and let's talk about Jamar Chase. Obviously, this was an unbelievable performance from him. And today was the final game, final day, final week of the fantasy regular season. So if you had Jamar Chase tonight, congratulations. 14 receptions, 177 yards, and the 2 touchdowns. His props were sitting at 6.5, and his yardage was sitting about 87, 88, 89.5. He flies over all of these numbers. You could have altered him to 100. You could have had him at this, that, the other thing. He goes over everything. The 2 touchdowns cashes. It is what it is. Now, on the other side, T. Higgins falls underneath everything. 2 catches, 23 yards. He did have 5 targets, but he hits the under on everything. On the other option in the receiving room, I guess you'd call for the Bengals, Chase Brown, 6 catches, 65 yards, and the touchdown through the air, adding the 58 yards on the ground, and he goes well over 100 combined yards. He has 20 total touches. He gets the touchdown. Great game from both of the chases when it comes to the Bengals. As I said on the pregame show, with this many chases, you would think that it would be Vinny and drama we're talking about, but I guess that is not the case. Let's move to the Dallas side of things. I'm going to say it was an okay game from Cooper Rush. You would like to see him be more efficient, 16 of 31. The 183 through the air was okay. The 2 touchdowns were good. Obviously, one of them going to CeeDee Lamb to open up the game, and then that very short one to Brandon Cooks. Outside of CeeDee Lamb, and this is something that I mentioned at halftime, someone else had to step up and do something. Someone's got to help CeeDee Lamb. Someone's got to take some of the ease off of Rico Dowdle in the backfield, who we'll get to in a second. Jake Ferguson, 3 for 32. Luke Schoonemaker, 2 for 22. Kevontae Turpin, 1 for 16. Rico Dowdle, 1 for 10. And Brandon Cooks, 1 for 3. No one else is doing anything in the passing game outside of CeeDee Lamb. And this, it's good and bad. It's good from a perspective that we know the targets are going to be funneled to CeeDee Lamb. Therefore, that's who we should be betting on. It's very, very super straightforward. Outside of that, the production is super lackluster. Ferguson falls under his prop, which was sitting at 37.5. That's a miss by me. He did have 6 targets. He only came away with 3 catches. So the targets were there for Ferguson. He just didn't convert. As I mentioned before the break, while the Cowboys season might be over, the bright spot for them is Rico Dowdle. 18 carries, 131 yards. He flies over his prop of 68.5. And I spoke on the pregame show about liking the under. I didn't see the matchup setting up for it to be. And he crushes that prop. He goes way over that. He doubles that nearly. So Rico Dowdle, huge game from him. This is now back-to-back games of over 100 yards for Rico Dowdle. And it's good to note that we did see the rushing attempt from CeeDee Lamb. We saw the little handoff jet sweep to Kevontae Turpin. But outside of that, not counting wide receivers, Ezekiel Elliott had 2 carries for 4 yards. So between Rico Dowdle and Ezekiel Elliott, there were 20 running back carries for the Dallas Cowboys, and Rico Dowdle controlled 18 out of the 20. That is fantastic to see. We know exactly who the ball is going to when it comes to the Dallas Cowboys backfield. Sure, will they try to get Kevontae Turpin the ball, but we're talking about actual running back carries. To see Rico Dowdle have maybe not 130 yards, maybe not over 100 last week against the Giants, but to see him push towards the upper 80s, mid 90s on a weekly basis, I think that's reasonable. I also want to add in the fact that we're going to continue to hear stories and see CeeDee Lamb on the injury report with this shoulder issue. So if there's no one else in the receiving room that can step up and help, alleviate some of the pressure off of CeeDee Lamb, it may actually turn into a big Rico Dowdle end of the season for the Cowboys, and his rushing attempts and his yards might be the best spot to go for the Cowboys week in and week out as we get to the close of the season if CeeDee Lamb can't do it all by himself and no one else is stepping up to help him. More to get to. We'll get to Thursday Night Football on the other side of this break. Stay tuned. Pro Football Today, recapping Monday Night Football.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What?
How do you do this one?
Oh, Donnie, you've got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
We got the NBA Cup going on. Not that anybody really cares per se about the NBA Cup. Now, I got to be honest with you. I actually did try to look of what does it mean like for the NBA Cup? Like who's playing for what here? I lost interest and I gave up after about 30 seconds. And I was like, you know what? Whatever, dude. There's NBA games.
Sports Rage tonight, only on SportsGrid.
He also said that the Bears head coaching opening would be the most coveted job after the season.
They'll let that guy stay. I heard today that they were very worried about screwing up Caleb Williams, so that he likes this guy Brown so much that they may let him stay as the head coach. What a disaster that'll turn into.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
What's going on, and welcome back to Pro Football Today, post-game show. My name is Tom Vecchio, coming off the heels of Monday Night Football. Bengals coming away with the win, 27-20. They win, they cover, the under hits. Massive game from Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, Chase Brown. Good stuff from Rico Dowdle on the other side. CeeDee Lamb scores the touchdown. A lot of people are cashing their same-game parlays. If you had the main guys to score touchdowns, that's exactly what we saw. If we have the touchdown odds from pregame, we got all of the main guys in, essentially. We had Chase Brown and Jamar Chase. They're both minus odds, I believe. Rico Dowdle was the one that didn't score, and CeeDee Lamb then scores as well. So good scoring. I would say it's an exciting game. Like, that's what we should be seeing at this time of the year. Bengals, I guess they're keeping their playoff hopes alive as we move to the final portion of the season. They play the Titans, the Browns over the next 2 weeks. Like, they can realistically win those games. I think they're absolutely better than Titans versus the Browns divisional matchup. It is what it is, but they can win those next 2 games. I think that does it for this game. Like, there's not much more to say. Jamar Chase is awesome. Joe Burrow's awesome. Let's move on to Thursday Night Football. Vinny, if you're ready, we have a 2.5-point spread in favor of the home 49ers. It is a 48.5 over-under. The injury news for the 49ers, surprise, surprise, continues to pile up. Last week, after their Sunday night game versus Buffalo, they placed Christian McCaffrey and Jordan Mason on IR, and Isaac Guerendo is going to be getting the start at running back. He has a fantastic game yesterday against the Bears, and now he is hurt, dealing with an ankle issue. And now Patrick Taylor could be seeing the lion's share of the work for the 49ers. This is a short week, so getting the updates on Garendo will be vital heading into Thursday. Again, 48.5 over under, 2.5 point spread in favor of the 49ers. Rams coming off a huge victory over the Bills, scoring all the points you could possibly want. I think I got to lean on the under on this game. Just immediately a lean on the under. And a part of me wants to take a team total over on the Rams because, they're fully healthy. They're ready to go. This is just as an important game it is for the Rams as it is for the 49ers. But the 49ers are continuing to deal with these injuries. And I think the Rams are trending upward in a lot of different areas. They have the offense to get it done. The defense, obviously highly questionable. I don't want to take what we saw yesterday. Granted that it's going up against Josh Allen, but I don't know if the 49ers will be able to put together a full game if they don't have that run complement that we know that they like to set up. So I immediately lean on the under. It's a short week. It's a divisional game. It's huge for the division standings. It's huge for the playoff standings. It is what it is. If we could start flashing some of those graphics for QBs, running backs, whatever we might have, this is where we could start to get into things. For QBs, I want to trust Stafford. I really do. I want to trust Stafford time and time again. And I know it can be a little bit counterintuitive at times. If I say like the under, then expect Stafford to hit 250 yards. That's where I'm leaning right now. I think there's a reasonable route that we see the points from the Rams and maybe a lack of scoring from the 49ers overall. When it comes to the receivers, Puka Nacua is coming off this unbelievable game. And that's what we're going to see on a week in and week out basis. Between Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp, and Kyren Williams, my theme for the Rams basically every week is that two of the three will be having big games. Because if all three are having big games, then we should just simply be looking to the team total, and that means they'll probably flying over. So two of the three generally have big games from the Rams. Now, Cooper Kupp didn't have the biggest game yesterday. It was kind of a Puka Nacua game, and they kind of flip-flop back and forth sometimes. I don't mind going back to the well with Cooper Kupp and expecting him to have the big game going up against the division rival. Am I going to be expecting 40 points from the Rams again? Absolutely not. I don't think that's what we should be expecting in a short week divisional game. But I think I'll take Cooper Kupp, and most importantly, I'm probably going to like the receptions for Cooper Kupp, which is not always a market I go to. I've said time and time again that the receiving yards are always easier than receptions because a player can break off a 90-yard reception on one play. You can't pick up 5 or 6 receptions on one reception. I know it sounds silly, but that's the reality of the situation. Cooper Kupp only having 5 receptions, I think, is a little bit low for him when he has especially 8 targets. And I always view Cooper Kupp as that underneath moving the chains player for the Rams. And that's ultimately where I'll be looking. So I'm assuming his prop's going to be a 5.5, most likely 6.5, maybe with plus money on the over. But I think that's the route I want to lean when it comes to the Rams. We also can be looking at Kyren Williams over on rushing attempts. That generally is a safe spot. The 49ers props, they may not be posted until Thursday. Some places may have them up, but what we get from the 49ers, I think, is going to be very difficult because Patrick Taylor is obviously a depth 4th string running back and has not seen any amount of work really until he had the touchdown yesterday. The passing props, I think, may be the most interesting when it comes to the 49ers. And as I said on the halftime show yesterday at 2:30, George Kittle was my favorite option yesterday for the 49ers, and I think he might be my favorite option yet again for the 49ers. The running game is a mess for the 49ers. Let's just call it what it is. Even if Patrick Taylor's in there, they will elevate someone from the practice squad. Ultimately, George Kittle is that let's move the chains, let's settle Brock Purdy down, let's get some consistency going in the offense. That's what George Kittle can be. He was at 58.5 yards yesterday, I believe it was, for his receiving prop. He had 138 yards at halftime. He ends the game with 151. Do I expect him to have 151 again? No, of course not. Do I expect him to be able to push towards 60 or 70 because they need him in the offense if their running game is going to be in shambles or lackluster, whatever you want to call it? Yes. So George Kittle will be that safe option. Juwan Jennings for the 49ers has been awesome. And I think that this is the other player we want to look to. I don't want to be looking at Deebo Samuel. I want to be looking to Juwan Jennings. Now, Deebo Samuel did tweet something today. He's a little bit upset about his role. He's not getting the ball so much. It is what it is. There is a path to Deebo having a big game, and it's actually going to be Deebo Samuel coming out of the backfield. Garendo's hurt. We're not sure if he's going to play. Patrick Taylor may have to be seeing an expanded role. They like to get Deebo Samuel the ball out of the backfield, bubble screens, jet sweeps, whatever it might be. So if Keyshawn Vaughn, who's another running back that saw action yesterday, if he has to play an expanded role for the 49ers, and it'll be a split between Patrick Taylor and Keyshawn Vaughn, who was with his first season with the 49ers after being with Tampa Bay his first few years, I actually think Deebo will be coming out of the backfield. So while I think Juwan Jennings is a more traditional, route running wide receiver compared to Deebo, I think a Deebo over rushing plus receiving could have some value specifically from the rushing market, again, based on the Garendo news. Now, if Garendo does play, obviously some of this will change. I won't be so high on Deebo getting the ball coming out of the backfield if Garendo is going to be out there seeing 12 plus carries. So what we get from the 49ers, it may be a last-minute kind of situation where some books are very hesitant to post any types of props for them when we know such a key piece of their offense is going to be missing. If we also see a lack of availability and a lack of health from the 49ers overall, Brock Purdy might be the answer from San Francisco. Some people may not love going to Kittle. They may not love going to Juwan Jennings. They may not love going to Deebo Samuel. But at the end of the day, Brock Purdy might be the answer from the 49ers. We can kind of circumvent all of the inconsistency from the running back room, the receiving room. Kittle's not going to go for 150 every game. Juwan Jennings isn't going to go for 90 every game. We can kind of circumvent all that and simply just trust Brock Purdy. Just trust Brock Purdy to throw the ball, pick up the yards. It doesn't matter who it's going to at that point. And we just simply trust Brock Purdy, who apparently is headed for a big contract, as some reports have come out over the weekend that he is expected to sign a contract extension with the 49ers. So what better time than prime time at home in a divisional game where the 49ers still have some life to make the playoffs than Brock Purdy to put things together. Stay tuned here. After this quick break, we'll break things down for some of the upcoming Sunday games.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What?
How do you do this once?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
We got the NBA Cup going on. Not that anybody really cares per se about the NBA Cup. Now, I got to be honest with you. I actually did try to look of what does it mean like for the NBA Cup? Like who's playing for what here? And I lost interest and I gave up after about 30 seconds. And I was like, you know what? Whatever, dude. There's NBA games.
Sports Rage tonight, only on SportsGrid.
He also said that the Bears head coaching opening would be the most coveted job after the season.
They'll let that guy stay. I heard today that they were very worried about screwing up Caleb Williams, so that he likes this guy Brown so much that they may let him stay as the head coach. What a disaster that'll turn into.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
What's going on, and welcome back to Pro Football Today post-game show. Monday Night Football just ended. Bengals come away with the win at 27-20. They cover. We see the under hit. We just recap that. We previewed Thursday night real quickly. Let's move on to some of these Sunday games because all the bye weeks are over. We know that all the teams are back in action. We have some bad games on this Sunday slate. Let's just call it what it is. Commanders, 7.5-point road favorites, visiting the Saints. Derek Carr is apparently out for multiple weeks with a hand issue. The fractured. He's also maybe dealing with a concussion. Jake Haener could be starting. That game probably is not going to be what we want to see. The Jets at the Jags. Jets are 3.5-point road favorites. It's a 40.5 over-under. Don't really want to be looking at that one. The Ravens are 14.5-point road favorites taking on the Giants. Oh, we don't want to be talking about that one either. It is all Ravens in that one. We can't even talk about that. Let's get to some really good games because for as many bad games as there are some really, really good games. And let's start off with the Battle of the Keystone State. The Eagles at home, 5.5-point favorites taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers. Is a 43.5 over-under. It's not nighttime in Pittsburgh behind me, but boy, do I love the Steelers in this one, plus 5.5. And yeah, we got to be siding with the under on this one. This is a huge, huge game across the board for multiple reasons. Let's just say that the Ravens come away with the win against the Giants. Shocking news, I know. The Steelers, if they lose this game, the Ravens would then be 9-5. The Steelers would then be 10-4. The following week, the Steelers and the Ravens play. So this is absolutely huge for the Steelers to try and come away with the win because that head-to-head matchup in the following week is massive when it comes to the division. Not only that, the Lions are playing the Bills, and that's a coin flip game. We'll get to that in the next. It is a 1.5-point spread. That's a losable game for the Lions. And I have been on record as to say the Lions are the class of the NFL this season, but that does not mean this is an easy game for them by any means. Why is this important? Because the Lions are sitting here at 12-1, and the Eagles are sitting in the number 2 seed, at least in the NFC, at 11-2. So it is realistic that the Lions fall to 12-2, and the Eagles improve to 12-2, giving us a tie atop the NFC. So this game is massive for the AFC North odds, the NFC number 1 overall seed odds. So a huge, huge game, 425 on Sunday, must-see game. 5.5-point spread in favor of the Steelers. Love the Steelers, love the under as well. Let's get to this next game between the Bills and the Lions. If you had to pick right now, I think this is a Super Bowl preview. I really do. I really think this is what we will be seeing in this Super Bowl. I think the Bills are the best team in the AFC. I think the Lions are the best team in the entire NFL. I think this is what we're going to be seeing. This is awesome. This might be the game of the year. We talked about the Bills and the Chiefs. It wasn't that. We've talked about various different matchups. I think Bills-Lions is the game of the year. 1.5-point spread in favor of the home Lions is a 53.5 over-under. Both teams are essentially fully healthy. This is what I said exactly last week about the Rams taking on the Bills. I said, this is what we want from a betting perspective, a fantasy perspective. This is the game that has the juice, a high over-under, great quarterbacks, great offensive options. We didn't see Keon Coleman or Dalton Kincaid play for the Bills. Maybe they're going to be back this week. Maybe they aren't. It doesn't matter because Khalil Shakir, Amari Cooper are there. We have James Cook coming out of the backfield. We have Ty Johnson getting in the mix. We have Mac Hollins getting in the mix. And then from the Lions are coming off of extra rest because they played on Thursday of last week, which is obviously after the Thursday that they played on Thanksgiving. And the Lions are now cooking on offense as they have been all season. They even got Tim Patrick in the mix a couple weeks ago, getting the 2 touchdowns to have another receiver alongside St. Brown, alongside Jameson Williams. They're getting Sam Laporta going. And then, of course, they're doing the backfield Sonic and Knuckles with Gibbs and Montgomery. This game has everything we possibly want from a betting perspective. The 4 p.m. window on Sunday is absolutely awesome between these two matchups. And this is not to overlook the Bucs and the Chargers, which is still a very, very good game. We have two teams that are pushing towards the playoffs. And I have to say, I think this game is specifically important for the Buccaneers. Chargers are coming off of a loss. We obviously know that they are right now sitting in the 6th seed for the AFC. Now, why is this an important game for the Bucs specifically? Because ultimately, the Bucs have been trending up for a while. They're on a 3-game win streak. Who's chasing them in the standings? Well, the Falcons are chasing them in the standings. And if we look ahead to next week, it's not a Sunday game, but it's a doubleheader on Monday. The Falcons are playing the Raiders. And we all have our thoughts about Kirk Cousins. Should he be starting? Should they bring in Michael Penix? What are they going to be doing? The Falcons are better than the Raiders. That's what it comes down to. The Falcons may not be a great team, but they are better than the Raiders. Now, there is some news with the Raiders. Yesterday after the Raiders-Bucs game, there were some reports that Aiden O'Connell apparently, after he got carted off in an air cast yesterday at the Bucs, that it was feared to be a season-ending injury for him. Apparently, that is not the case for Aiden O'Connell, and that he is holding out hope that he could still play on Monday night against the Falcons. If it is not him, it is going to be Desmond Ridder at the helm for the Raiders, who has seen some game time here or there throughout the season with the various injuries to Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew. And we know that Minshew is done for the season with a broken collarbone. So the Bucs, so to circle back on all of this Chargers-Bucs game is actually massive because the Chargers are a good team. And I think the Bucs need to bring the full effort for this game, because if the Falcons win and the Bucs lose, well, it just makes the NFC South that much tighter. And it would put the teams both at 7-7. And that's not where obviously either team wants to be. The Falcons would love to be there, but that's not where the Bucs want to be. But the Bucs do have a favorable end to the season. In the last 2 games, they played the Panthers and the Saints, and those could be winnable games for them. One more segment here. We're coming up against break right now. One more segment on the other side of this break, breaking down the Sunday slate after we just finished Monday Night Football. Stay tuned here. Pro Football Today, a post-game show with myself, Tom Vecchio. We'll be back after this break.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What?
How do you do this one?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
We got the NBA Cup going on. Not that anybody really cares per se about the NBA Cup. Now, I got to be honest with you. I actually did try to look of what does it mean for the NBA Cup? Like who's playing for what here? And I lost interest and I gave up after about 30 seconds. And I was like, you know what? Whatever, dude. There's NBA games.
Sports Rage tonight, only on SportsGrid.
He also said that the Bears head coaching opening would be the most coveted job after the season.
They'll let that guy stay. I heard today that they were very worried about screwing up Caleb Williams, so that he likes this guy Brown so much that they may let him stay as the head coach. What a disaster that'll turn into.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
What's going on, and welcome to Pro Football Today. The post-game show, Monday Night Football ended it. We saw the Bengals come away with the win, 27-20. They win, they cover, under hits. It is what it is. Massive game from Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase. Huge game on the other side from Rico Dowdle. Let's move on to some of the other Sunday games as we have been running through some of these as a first look. Let's hit Chiefs at the Browns. What a matchup this is. Chiefs coming off a last-second doink field goal to win the division, and everyone's going to say the same thing. As I said last night on the post-game show last night, oh, the Chiefs are winning, but they're not covering. The Chiefs don't cover. They're 4-8-1 against the spread this season, despite the fact that they're 12-1. They don't cover. All that is saying to me is that betting against the Chiefs is a winning strategy. You are being profitable this year if you are betting against the Chiefs. Now, 4.5 is obviously a little bit of a weird number. It's past the 3, past that key number. It's not exactly at 6. I assume a lot of people will just naturally be on the Browns. They'll just naturally be on the Browns because, oh, guess what? The Chiefs don't cover, and that's right. But you know what I said last night? I'm going to say the same thing. My favorite spot is going to be is if the Chiefs fall, the Browns get out to a little bit of a lead, the Chiefs fall behind, the Chiefs at -2, -1.5, -2.5, what it is. That's the best spot. If the Chiefs can't cover pregame numbers, well, guess what? They can cover those in-game numbers, and I would take that. Kareem Hunt for a touchdown. It's a revenge game going up against his former team. Let's roll with that. Colts taking on the Broncos. 4.5-point spread. Both teams are coming off a bye. It's important to note they're both fully rested, ready to go. It's got to be the Broncos. It's got to be under 44.5, and it's got to be specifically team total Colts under 20.5. It is a little bit juicy. It's sitting at -122 here on the FanDuel Sportsbook. It is +100 on over, but the Colts are just not a good team. I don't care what their record shows. The inconsistency that they have in offense is far too much to trust going into altitude and a defense defense like the Broncos against that defense. Now, granted, the last time we saw the Broncos, they just gave up 500 passing yards to Jameis Winston, and that won't be happening for Anthony Richardson, who has not been good this season. It is about the Broncos at home, pushing towards a playoff spot. The Broncos are holding down the 7th seed right now. The Colts are holding down the 8th, so this is an important matchup for them as well, but the Broncos are the better team overall. Give me the Broncos, give me the under, give me the Colts team total under. Next up, Sunday night game. Seahawks at home against Green Bay. Seahawks are 3-point home underdogs, and we have a 46.5 over-under. Packers are coming off a very close loss to the Lions. We see the Seahawks coming off a good win over the Cardinals. Part of me really likes the Seahawks. Really likes the Seahawks. They play great at home. This is a huge matchup, not just for the Seahawks, but again, for the Packers as well. They need to secure their spot. And again, I'm going to constantly circle back to what are other teams doing in other games and why is this important, and et cetera, et cetera. The Packers aren't winning their division, which means that they're fighting for playoff seeding in terms of the wild card. The Commanders are 8-5. The Packers are 9-4. If the Packers were to lose this game, they would be 9-5. The Commanders, as I said, are on the road. They're 7.5-point road favorites, taking on the Saints, who don't have Derek Carr and are likely going to be starting Jake Haener. If the Packers lose and the Commanders win, they're both going to be tied at 9-5 when it comes to record. That's not what the Packers want to see. The Packers don't want to be having a 2-game losing streak. After the Packers play the Seahawks this upcoming Sunday night, they have to play the Saints, which could be a winnable game. Then they have to play the Vikings, which is certainly tough. And then they end the season with the Bears. So it is a bit of an up and down slate for the Packers, which I think makes this game all the more important. So despite the fact that I like the Seahawks with the points, a part of me wants to be in the middle area, which can be a little bit dangerous, where the Packers win the game, but the Seahawks may still cover. And maybe we end up getting like a 24-21 final where the Packers win, you get a push on the spread. Now, if you're interested in the Packers and you think people are going to be backing the Seahawks, maybe you wait a little bit in the week and you get that 2.5 number so you can get the win on a 3-point victory. So we have critical games at this point of the season. I think we are in for an absolutely unbelievable Sunday slate. So many important games, so many lines are moving leading up to Sunday. Again, we saw the Bengals win tonight, 27-20. They cover. We see the under hit. The under was 51.5. Massive game from Joe Burrow. Massive game from Jamar Chase. He comes away with 2 touchdowns. The other touchdown was to Chase. All those things. Stay tuned here on SportsGrid for all your football needs. We'll be back, of course, on Thursday night for the pregame show covering a massive NFC West divisional matchup between the 49ers and the Rams. Good luck until then. I'll see you guys on Thursday.